Good evening. It is time for today's Tax Talk. I'm your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. It is Wednesday, February 8th, the year of our Lord 2023. And we're here going to talk about the State of the Union. Going to talk about a new rule being bandied about by the IRS about tips. Now, I know the name of this on here is to ensure proper service. And there are those who will say, Attorney Leahy, that's not what TIPS stands for. That's what it stands for me. That's what I'm going to stick with. TIPS, to ensure proper service. Whether that's the origin or not. That's what I'm saying. So, okay. Anyway, won't you join us? So that's what we're doing here today. I thought it was interesting, the State of the Union, that he talked about taxes. A couple things that he said. One thing he said that I agree with, and let's see if I can find that right now and we can play it. This is the one thing I do agree with. If I can get it up there. 333.
I think a lot of you at home agree with me and many people that you know the tax system is not fair. It is not fair. And I need to be crystal clear. I said at the very beginning,
I gotta play it again.
Under my plans, as long as I'm president, nobody earning less than $400,000 will pay an additional.
Uh-oh. Yeah, well, I don't always bring in videos, and that's one of the reasons why I don't bring in the videos, because I have a hard time playing them. But let's see if we can't do that better. So here it is. I believe that. Let's make sure it's at the beginning. And this is the one I agree with.
I think a lot of you at home agree with me and many people that you know the tax system is not fair. It is not fair. And I need to be crystal clear. I said at the very beginning.
Our tax system is not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. I agree with him. The difference is that he and I don't agree with why it isn't fair. And so then he said this.
And I need to be crystal clear. I said at the very beginning, under my plans, as long as I'm president, nobody earning less than $400,000 will pay an additional penny in taxes. Nobody, not one penny.
Not one penny.
And I need to be crystal clear. I said at the very beginning,
let's not do that.
Under my plans, as long as I'm president, nobody earning less than $400,000 will pay an additional penny in taxes. Nobody, not one penny.
So not one penny is going to go to more taxes. If you earn less than $400,000 a year, you won't pay one penny more. Does that really ring true with what's going on with the 1099K, the 1099B, and now this new let's put on the right this new rule that's coming out, and that's what we're going to talk about today. This new rule. Let's see if I can find it. Here it is. So here's the story. Let's go to the story. Here's the story. Let's go to the story. Okay. Biden's IRS plans to crack down on waiters' tips and waitresses. Right? They're coming after waitresses' tips now, tax expert says. The Internal Revenue Service proposed a revenue procedure this week to crack down on the service industry's reporting of tips. Now, I understand what Biden's argument would be, right? His argument would be, well, wait a minute. I'm not raising taxes. They're supposed to pay taxes on that money anyway. But here's the thing, that a lot of people who are going to be wrapped up in this, they're going to pay more taxes. Now, you could say that they should have been paying it all along, but they're going to pay more taxes. And so there's no doubt. You know, it's the same thing with the 1099K. that this stuff is going to come through, and people say, well, they're supposed to pay taxes anyway. Well, some people are going to be hit with this, and they're not supposed to pay more taxes, but they're going to pay more taxes because they don't know how to fight it, or maybe it's not worth fighting it, but they're going to pay more taxes. I mean, there's no doubt about it, and they're going to because this is not the waitresses aren't making $400,000. I like this picture that I have up here because it shows a bunch of gold coins. I don't think many waitresses get gold coins, right? They're not the rich. They're not the ones that are trying to pay their fair share. Those are the people that already pay their fair share. Now my own opinion is the rich also pay their fair share. And when he says to begin, so the rich and companies haven't even begun to pay their fair share. That's far-fetched to say the least. Well, anyway, let's go back to the story. Here we are, back to the story. The Service Industry Tip Compliance Agreement program would be a voluntary tip reporting system in which the IRS and service industry companies cooperate, according to the announcement Monday. As part of the proposal, the IRS will give the public until early May to provide feedback on the program before implementing it. They're going to implement it. Don't worry about it. Those 87,000 new IRS agents that were promised would only target the rich, tweeted the manager of Americans for Tax Reform. They're coming after waitresses' tips now. According to the IRS, the program would seek to improve tip reporting compliance, reduce administrative burdens, and provide more transparency and certainty to taxpayers. So they're only helping the waitresses. This is not a proposal for auditing of servers, an IRS official told Fox News. Yesterday's action was a proposal for comment, not a rule, based on over a decade feedback from restaurants and other businesses seeking the increased flexibility for their overall tax compliance on tips. They've come down on the owners. What are they going to? You're going to fight the IRS, or are you going to side with the waitress? Which one are you going to fight? Nobody sided with the waitress. This proposal is not in effect and is intended to welcome further conversation from all interested parties before the rule is put into place. The rule will be put into place. We know that. Among the program's features, the agency lists monitoring of employer compliance based on actual annual tip revenue and charge tip data from the employer's point of sale system and allowance for adjustments in tipping practices from year to year. It also states that participating employers would provide the IRS with annual reports, would receive protection from liability related to rules that define tips as part of an employee's pay. Okay, so don't worry, turn in your employees and you'll have immunity. We won't go after you. We'll just go after the waitress. So don't you worry about it. And you just have to fill out. It's an easy report. Oh, don't worry, take you a couple minutes. What are you complaining about? It's an easy report. Oh, but you have all these other reports too that it doesn't matter. 1099s, W-2s, tax forms, 940, 941, whatever. It's easy for you. We just got another report. That's all. It's just another one. Anyway, in accordance with this, it also states that participating employers would provide the IRS. I already said that. In accordance with the section of the tax law that requires employees to report tips to their employers. There's no reason they'd be issuing guidance on how to crack down on this if it was only going to end up being voluntary, he said. Ultimately, the goal is to go and grab as much revenue as possible from whoever they can. That's obvious. All of this is a backdrop of they told us that we're not coming after people earning $400,000 or less. Well, here's a new IRS rule that's focused on bringing in tips from waitresses. That's what they focused on doing. That's what they're putting new rules on. The rule proposal comes years after the Treasury Secretary General for Tax Administration published a report that found the IRS often provided tip income audit protection to non-compliant employers and employees. As estimated, 30% of employers with tip reporting agreements hadn't reported tips almost $1.7 billion, according to they're cheating. They're cheaters. Those waitresses. One of the problems identified by the TIGTA, as they call it, is the IRS rarely revokes tip reporting agreements, resulting in continued tip income audit protection for non-compliant employers. We have to go after those non-compliant employers. They're making over $400,000. Well, maybe not, but we're still going to go after them. And in some cases, they're employees, because we know they're making over $400,000. Well, maybe not. SITCA recommended that the IRS train its employees on specific criteria for revoking tip reporting agreements with non-compliant taxpayers. Meanwhile, Democrats have hammered for the provision in the Inflation Reduction Act that bolstered the IRS's budget by $80 billion, opening the door for the agency to hire tens of thousands of new agents. The Republican majority House passed legislation earlier in January to rescind the $70 billion of its funding. The last thing the American people need right now are more audits from out-of-control, bloated IRS. The Inflation Act funding for IRS would lead to the hiring of 87,000 new IRS employees tasked with raising enough revenue to pay for Democrats' Green New Deal priorities. I don't know if you know this, but that we have the highest debt, the highest deficit of all time. We also have the highest amount of income of taxes ever collected. How does that square? We're collecting more taxes than ever, but they're spending more than ever. And then they keep telling us, well, there's this gap. We got to close it down. We got to get more. We got to get more. But you're collecting more than ever. Doesn't matter. And the analysis released by the House Republicans last year of the tax provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act showed the Americans earning less than $75,000 per year would bear the brunt of 60% of additional tax audits authorized as a result of the bill's new funding of the IRS. Because remember, those are not field audits, right? The IRS is not sending anybody out. They just send a couple of letters and see if you're in compliance, right? This is called a correspondence audit. So they're not sending anybody out. These are coming automatically, and they're matching money information returns with what's on your tax return. It's done automatically. So I think a lot of that enforcement money is not going to go to 87,000 new employees, although there'll be a lot of new employees, don't get me wrong. But a lot of that money is going to go towards AI and computer and tech and IT, because that's where they're coming up with the money. That's the way they're going to squeeze us all. That's the way they're going to get every dollar they can from everybody. Not those only making over $400,000 a year. It's going to be everybody. However, IRS Commissioner Charles Rettig, who's no longer the commissioner, now the commissioner is an acting commissioner. His name is O'Donnell. And there's a guy waiting in the wings, and his name is Daniel Warfel. He's coming. Now, I'm mentioning their names because I think everybody should know about this. Everybody should know the commissioner of the IRS. They have so much power over all of us. Did you know, and I think I put this in one of my videos recently, did you know that they just approved a chauffeur for the commissioner? He's an important guy. He's got to have a chauffeur for the $20 billion a year agency. However, IRS Commissioner Charles Rettig responded to criticism of the bill in August, saying the agency would not use resources to punish small businesses or middle-income Americans. The bottom line is this. These resources are absolutely not about increasing audit scrutiny on small business or middle-income Americans, Rettig wrote in an Yahoo Financial editorial. I read that editorial on the show. The investment of these important resources is designed to support honest, compliant taxpayers. And most taxpayers are not honest and compliant, so they don't really count, according to him. Right? So we found that they're not compliant, and so they don't count the people that were under $400,000. Only the compliant who keep their mouth shut. Those are the ones that count. Everybody else doesn't count. Our investment is designed around the Treasury directive that audit rates do not raise relative to recent years for households making under $400,000. So again, do you think that that's true or not? This is the announcement from the IRS. Let's see how much time we have. IRS introduces new service industry tip reporting program. Let's see the spin that the IRS gives it. The Treasury Department and Internal Revenue Service today issued Notice 2023-13, which contains a proposed revenue procedure that would establish the Service Industry Tip Compliance Agreement Program, a voluntary tip reporting program between the IRS and employers in various service industries. The IRS is issuing this guidance in proposed form to provide an opportunity for public comment. The proposed SITCA, let's call it that, because it is SITCA, is designed to take advantage of the advancements in point-of-sale, time and attendance systems, and electronic payment settlement methods to improve tip reporting compliance. The proposed program would also decrease taxpayer and IRS administrative burdens and provide more transparency and certainty to taxpayers. The proposed program includes several features: the monitoring of employer compliance based on actual annual tip revenue and charge tip data from an employer's point of sale system, and allowance of adjustments in tipping practices from year to year. Participating employers demonstrate compliance with the program requirements by submitting an annual report after the close of the calendar year, which reduces the need for compliance reviews by the IRS. So we don't want the IRS coming out. You want to do this report, or do you want us to come out to your place of business? Which one do you want? Which one are you going to choose? Participating employers receive protection from liability under the rules that define tips as part of the employee's pay for calendar years in which they remain compliant with program requirements. Remain compliant, or you're going to pay a fee or a penalty. Which one do you want to do? It's voluntary. Participating employers may have flexibility to implement employee tip reporting policies that are best suited for their employees and their business model in accordance with the section of the tax law that requires employees to report tips to their employers. The intent of SITCA program is to serve as a sole tip reporting compliance program for employers in various service industries and would replace the following programs. So there's already programs in place, but this one's better because they're going to go right after all the electronic data that's out there. The IRS is continuing to explore opportunities within the gaming industry, and as such, this program does not impact the existing gaming industry tip compliance agreement, but that's coming. The proposed revenue procedure provides that for employers with any of these existing agreements, such agreements would remain in effect until the earlier of the employer's acceptance into the SITCA program. So this one's voluntary. The one that you're on, that's not so voluntary. And you got to stay in that one unless you can agree to this one. The IRS determination that the employer is non-compliant with the terms of these other agreements and the end of a first full calendar year after the final revenue procedure is published by the Internal Revenue Bulletin. Anyone interested in providing feedback to the proposed SITCA program should follow the instructions in the notice and reply by May 7th, 2023. What's that? Where are we? February? A couple of months away? It's just amazing to me. So that's what's going on. I had another story. What's this other story? Oh, this is just the same thing. IRS considering changing how tipped employees report tips. It's just for compliance. It's just to get the cheaters and the vagabonds, right? Those that are non-compliant. They don't count anyway, but that's most of America, according to them. So anyway, that's where we are. I still think tips means to ensure proper service. If it didn't originate that way, that's what it means today, in my opinion. So thanks so much for joining us. I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. We need your help to get this information out. So please help us. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. I'm begging you. Yes, it sounds like it doesn't. Well, I am. Also, if you're having IRS problems, if you owe the IRS money and you don't know what to do, first thing you should do is get a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. Go to freeirsbook.com. That's freeirsbook.com. Get your free copy of Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. I will pay for the publishing. I will ask you to pay for the shipping and handling. So go to freeirsbook.com. Get your free copy. I do have a tax workshop coming up. So if you owe the IRS money or if you're interested, if you don't know what to do with the IRS and 433 forms and all of this other stuff, offers and compromise, all this other stuff, I'm going to explain it in a tax workshop. Go to fightbacknow.com, fightbacknow.com. I know I give you a lot of stuff. So thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back here tomorrow with another edition of today's Tax Talk, and I hope you will join us. In the meantime, God bless you, and we are out.